Okay, that's us. Right, well, hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on discounted and waived APCs from Taylor and Francis. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Just before I start, a couple of housekeeping rules. We'll be recording the webinar, so you can watch it. You can watch it later in your own time if you rewatch it again. But if you, in case you missed it or you couldn't make the actual live webinar, you can watch it anytime. We'll also share these slides with you, so you don't need to take lots of notes. All the participants are mute, so if there's something you want to say or if there's a question you have, please put it in the chat box. I will keep an eye on it even while I'm doing the first part, and later I'll see it when Nicolo and Rebecca are talking. So any questions, and we've got time for questions at the end, but also during the webinar, if there's anything that's unclear, please feel free to put your questions in there, and we'll try and answer them. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to cover. So I'm going to, in two parts really. So I didn't introduce myself, how bad. I'm Romy, I'm the EIFL-Licensing Program Manager. So I'm going to do the first part where I give a bit of context of why we're doing and presenting the Taylor and Francis offer for EIFL. And then I'll hand over to Rebecca Evans and Nicolo Perini from the Taylor and Francis Open Access team. So they'll help us, they show us exactly how you can check the exact APCs for some of the journals, and also talk us through the actual submission process and where you have to enter the discount code. So that's something we've not shared in as much detail before, because obviously we can't access the system. And again, that's where it might be useful even if you're on the webinar and you want to watch it again at a later time because you're confused, you know, it's there for you as a resource. It will be made available on the EIFL website. Yeah, so that's what we're going to cover today. And then, like I said, there will be time for question and answers at the end. So just to give you a bit of context, in case you're new to this and you didn't get the whole background. So the EIFL licensing program, we negotiate agreements with publishers and service providers on behalf of EIFL member consortia and their institutions. So generally it's discounted or free access, and it's always traditionally been focused more on the access side of content, to try and make content available at an affordable price or free of charge. But recently we've, you know, kind of tried to include open access elements into these agreements, or have separate agreements that cover open access publishing, in order to support the global move to open access and really help speed up this transition. So we've got a couple of agreements where we've negotiated discounted and waived article processing charges for EIFL researchers. So the two agreements, now first, what are article processing charges? So an article processing charge is a fee that an author pays in order to have the article published in open access. So this fee, the APC in short, it covers the cost of article publication. So it includes things like the peer review system, copy editing, typesetting, hosting the article and servers, marketing. I've probably forgotten some other things that you can add, Nicolo. And what's important is that the article processing charge is paid after an article has been peer reviewed and accepted for publication. So the two, usually at publishers, the two systems are completely separate. The people that deal with the payment of the article processing charge and will process any discounts or waivers have nothing to do with making a decision about whether the article is good enough to be published. So if you think that, oh, if I'm paying to get published, it's almost like bribery and my article won't be as good, that's not true. So it's completely separate. It's a different team that reads your article and says, yes, like this is okay, we need to make some revision, and then you can resubmit it perhaps, or they say, no, it's not going to be published. It's very different to the people that actually at the end process the payment. So one has nothing to do with the other. And again, just you know, to reiterate this, the difference between open access versus closed access. So if an author publishes an article in a subscription journal, they don't pay an article processing fee, but it means that not everyone will get access to this content. So it's published for free, but not to be read for free. So libraries would have to pay to read. Whereas if an author publishes an article in an open access journal, either a fully open access journal or a hybrid journal that includes both free and subscription articles, they usually have to pay an article processing fee, and then everyone can read the article. There's no need to pay for access. So you tend to pay to publish, but not pay to read. And I put a note in there to say that some open access journals actually don't charge article processing charges. So we've got some examples of that as well that will show you. So the clear advantage of open access publishing is that anyone from around the world can read the published article. There's no subscription cost for libraries, but also for the researcher, it means greater exposure. It means a higher use of other people reading the articles, which means more downloads, more citations, more references, and therefore more impact on other researchers. So that's, you know, why we want to encourage open access publishing, really. Who pays the article processing charges? This is a question that in discussions I've had with countries comes up quite a lot. So the APCs are usually paid by research funders, so through research grants that different researchers get. Sometimes authors pay them out of their own pocket. It can also be that institutions pay APCs on behalf of their researchers. And within the transition to open access, increasingly libraries are taking charge of this APC spend in their discussions with publishers through what we've called transformative agreements. And we've had a separate webinar on this as well. So that's something that's quite important, that the libraries start to track this themselves a bit more, so they know what they're spending or what their authors are spending on this. So we've got two agreements that we have. So one is with Taylor and Francis that we're going to go through in detail now for discounts and waivers on article processing charges, and the other one is with Sage, and we've got a webinar scheduled at the start of June to do the same thing that we're doing today, essentially. We haven't announced that yet, but just so you can make a note of that. So let's move on to the Taylor and Francis offer in detail. So I've repeated it here just to see what countries are covered. So that we've got two different groups. The first group of countries essentially get a waived article processing charge. So it's 100% discount. That means the authors don't need to pay anything when they publish an article in open access. So it includes those countries from Cambodia through to Zimbabwe. And then the second group are qualifying for a 50% discount for corresponding authors. So it's Armenia up to the Ukraine. And in total, the list includes 132 fully open access journals, as opposed to hybrid. So these are journals where all the articles in the journal are open access. And just added a note here on the corresponding author, in case you're not familiar with that term. This is the main contact if more than one author work on an article together. So you could have collaborations, but this is the main person, the person that submits the article, the person that receives emails, updates about the article process, doing the peer review and the production process, and also the person who receives the peer review decision, whether it's published or not. So it's the author who handles all the correspondence, hence corresponding author. And now I'm going to try switching to the website where I want to show you, and I hope this is still working with the screen sharing, yeah? I want to show you this page that we've created on the EIFL website, and I can pop the link in the chat box in case anyone wants to have a look at it later as well. So this is the page that we've created to explain the offer in detail. So this is an open page. You can send it to your researchers or send it to your other librarians in case they want some more information on this particular offer. So it just gives a quick overview of what it covers, the terms and conditions. So it explains exactly which titles are included. So it includes the Kogan titles, but some like Dove medical imprint, for example, are not included. And here you have got the terms which I've just had in the presentation about waived article processing charges for which countries are eligible for a 50% discount. And Rebecca will talk us in detail through how it works, and during the submission process there's actually a selection tick box that you have to click, so all that will make sense once you see it. But what I want to show you before I hand over is this title list that we've created, which will help you find the journals that are included in the offer. So you just click here and it'll download the title list for you, and we'll try and update this twice a year. And this is it here. So what we've done is we included subject area, so you can filter by subject area, and you could, for example, just select the ones that are of interest to you to make it a little bit easier. Or if a researcher comes to the library and says, I want to publish, this is my field, you know, what journal should I publish in? And you can say, oh, well, actually, we've got this offer, you can publish in open access. And then in the spreadsheet here, you've got the APC list price. So if you're qualifying for a waiver, then obviously there's 0 APC, you don't pay anything. If you qualify for the 50% discount, you obviously calculate 50%. So, you know, if it's $800, the author would be paying only $400. But this is the list that's been submitted. I think it was end of February. We will be updating it twice a year. But sometimes article processing charges change, perhaps in between that time. So what we want to encourage you is to use this link to double check the exact APC, so you can copy this back into your browser, and that will take you to the journal website, and I believe it's under instructions for authors, where you then have the exact APC listed. So here we go, it's still $800, but you also have the different currencies. So just want to point that out to you, that you can double check that on the website. And that's everything for the spreadsheet, really. As soon as it's updated, I will always put the new version on this page. So this is the best place to check. So if possible, don't, you know, if you send it out, make people aware that it can be updated. So it's better to refer them to this page, so they always have the most up-to-date version. And again, encourage them to use the link to double check if it is really the right one. There's a note here, and maybe Rebecca will show us an example of this. Some journals have like a promotional discount that they offer, which is separate from the EIFL discount. And our discount actually is applied on top of the promotional discount. So if you see, I don't think this one had one like that, but it could say that it says for a limited time period, the APC is actually only $400. So if you then calculate 50% of that, you would only be paying $200. So maybe we've got an example of that, but we found a few like that. That's why we put a note to say, if you find this additional discount, our discount counts on top of that. So I think that's pretty much everything that I planned to show. And then I will hand you over to Rebecca, who will cover the submission process, and also perhaps show us a couple more of these pages if you've got any handy. Okay, so I'll mute myself and you can unmute yourself, and hopefully there won't be too many echoes.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. As Romy said, I'll be taking everyone through our submission site and showing just how we request the EIFL discount and waivers. So I'll just share my screen now. So can we all see that? Okay, great. So this is our submission page, and you get here by visiting the instructions. If you visit the journal page on the Taylor & Francis online platform, you can see our instructions for authors, and this is where, as you see in the APC, information is. And you can also click the Submit an Article button, and that will take you to our submission page here. So I'll just take you through the process now. So we go through so you need to indicate you've read the instructions for authors. So this will give you all the details of how your manuscript should be prepared for submission. And then just a confirmation here that you're only submitting original material. Then you choose your article type. This will include a list of the different article types available on this journal. Advances in Physics specializes in review articles, which is why this is the only article type. So then you can start your submission. So this takes us to the manuscript details page. So we just need to fill in information about our manuscripts. And this includes the abstract here. You can also use this page to indicate whether your paper is part of a special collection. So if it is, you can just enter that name here. And you can also indicate if you have a data set associated with your article. And you can enter the DOI or any other identifier here to make that available. And you can then upload your files. So you can either click Choose Files to upload them, or you can just drag and drop. So I'm just going to drag my manuscript through here. So you can see that has now appeared at the bottom. You'll have, depending on the journal's blinding policy, so whether it's single or double blind, you'll be asked to upload a different number of manuscripts. This journal operates on a single blind peer review policy, so I need to upload one. So just indicate what type of manuscript it is here. I can also upload separate documents for tables and figures if necessary. And here you can indicate if there's any third-party material in your article. And if there is, you just need to let us know if you've been given permission to use that. And then we just need to enter the keywords here. That's not my stuff, is it? Different journals might have a different number of required keywords, just to be aware. And depending on the subject, some might have specific subject classifications you need to choose from, but that does depend on the journal. And this is where we can enter our author details. So I can complete my details here. And I can choose my organisation. So in this case, I think I've just put a university in Kiev, and I've typed in names, so hopefully it should bring up, oh, there we go. So I'll just choose this one in Kiev. Same in the physics department. And I can indicate that I'm the main point of contact for submission, so I can choose my country here, and this is important to ensure the discount pulls through correctly. And then you can just put any correspondence details in here for the article, and these can differ from billing details further along in the article. And then you just need to indicate whether any funding has been received, and if there has, there is room there to provide the grant number and the institution that has been received from. And you can do that for each author, so you can click Add Another Author and fill in the same details for them, including an ORCID ID too. So let's do that. And need to declare any competing interests. So there's a space there to see if there's any interests, and also just a tick box to confirm that your work is conforming with ethical guidelines. You just need to confirm you've added all the relevant authors to the manuscript. Right, so you can see here that the APC has been brought up. This is the standard article publishing charge. The currency does change depending on your location. So this will be, it will always show the currency in which we will issue that invoice. And then you can select who is paying the APC. So I'm just going to choose myself. And then you have the space there to provide a billing address. So I'm going to put Main Street. And if you need to, you can also display a different address on your invoice. And then we just need to generate that quote. This might take a while because it's on one of our testing systems.
Rebecca, just to interrupt really quickly here while we're waiting for this.
Yes.
It's the location of the corresponding offer that triggers the discount or the waiver, isn't it? So the billing address could be different. There could be other collaborating authors that are in other countries, but it's the corresponding author. Like when you selected the institution, that's the part, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is the corresponding authors in affiliation there. So it doesn't matter if co-authors have got based in different countries, or if they're based in high income countries.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't affect your request here. So you can see a quote has been generated here, but it's also given me the option to apply a country waiver. So it's given me the option to apply 50% discount because I'm based in Ukraine. So I can apply that EIFL 50% discount just by checking this box, and it will apply that automatically. There is also a space to provide a discount code if being provided that. So this might be for, say, a special issue or for marketing, or if it's an invited paper. And just as a side note, we also do have discretionary discounts available for authors who are not covered by, for instance, for this EIFL deal or for our World Bank waiver policy. And they just need to email this email address here, and we'll be able to assess those on a case-by-case basis. So we can see here that 50% discount has been applied, and now now the total amount. The total amount quoted is $475. So just need to go next. Just taking a little while again. Oh. Okay, it's done something strange there. Oh, there we go. So now we're on to a preview. And so this is the point at which you can just review all the manuscript, all the details of your submission, so including your title, your abstract, your keywords. So if anything's changing, you can go back and fix that. Then it's also confirming the quote details here. And you will also, once you've submitted that article, you'll also receive an email with the quote attached. So you then have a PDF reference of that quote. So you can keep that for your records. So we just need to accept and submit, and just confirm that we're happy that we know that an APC will be applicable in this instance because I've just got that 50% discount, and that knowing that the article will be published on a gold open access basis. Just click yes there. And that's my article submitted. So that now has progressed through to peer review, where it'll be reviewed as normal by our editors and peer reviewers. And they'll be in touch with any further information. And there's an email address there if you have any questions about your submission. But otherwise, you can just go to your submission dashboard. It should be through here, and you can see the status of all your submissions there. So that is the submission process. If there's any questions about that.
Thanks, Rebecca. I think that was quite clear. Thank you. While we wait for questions, and again, I remind you all that if you have questions, please put them in the Zoom webinar chat or if you can't find it, raise your hand. There must be some buttons you can see. Or we can even let you speak if you feel like you don't want to write the question. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that we've not covered? I might have forgotten.
Yeah, I guess I was just confirming your point earlier that if the journal has got a reduced APC for a limited period of time, the discount will be applied to that reduced APC. Mm-hmm. However, other discounts don't compound. So if you got 50% discount under our World Bank waiver policy and a 50% discount under our agreement with EIFL, they will not combine.
Okay.
So it means there's countries like Ghana, which has different discounts under both schemes, but you will be given the larger of the two discounts in that case.
Okay. And have we looked at how those compare? Are there any discrepancies between the two? The World Bank discounts?
I think the only difference is Ghana, who receive 100% discount under our agreement with EIFL and 50% discount under our World Bank.
Okay.
And waiver policy for those eligible journals, that corresponding authors based in Ghana will be eligible for that full waiver.
Okay. So if they follow the submission process, it will come up as the 100%
It'll come up with a
waiver. Yeah. So that kind of overwrites the other one then, doesn't it? Because it doesn't say specifically EIFL discount or World Bank discount. It's just one discount.
The system will calculate what the biggest discount there should be.
Yeah. And again, if there's an article that has a promotional discount, it will show that first before you apply the tick box about the additional discount.
So the discount is always applied to that standard APC that you see at the top of the page.
Okay, good. Okay, so we've got a question from Isaac saying you couldn't see the waiver on APC for that particular journal she submitted to. So if I understand the question correctly, it's because Ukraine is one of the countries that qualifies for a 50% discount. So if Rebecca had done an example where she'd chosen Ghana, for example, then it would have been 100% and it would be a waiver. So it's waived completely. But the system the process is the same. So we just chose one example with Ukraine as a country instead, because that's a 50% discount country. So it does. This article would have had a waiver.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with our old submission systems, you did have to select which waiver you were requesting, but here the system will be able to do that for you. Mm-hmm. So you just need to tick that box.
Okay. And are all the journals on our list, is the submission process the same? Or
the majority of them should be the same, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So let me just as a recap to show our pages again. So I put the link in there earlier. So from here, you can get to the title list that you can download. You can check, first of all, which country you're from and check whether you're eligible for waiver or 50% discount. So we can see that the Ukraine gets 50% discount, but say Zimbabwe, Zambia would get a waiver. So that's the first thing that you should check. Do I qualify? Do my researchers qualify for a waiver or the discount? And then download the title list, have a look at that. And again, you can see here, we touched upon this, there are some journals that do not charge an APC. So even countries that qualify for 50% discount would pay nothing to publish in these. Nobody would, essentially. But we wanted to include them in this list to promote those journals as well. So you can check this, and then from here you can get to just copy and paste the link to get to the journal page, and there you can double check the APC. So we go to instructions for authors, article processing charge. You can double check, is it really 600? And it is And then from there you get the link to the submission. Where was that again? Submit an article. So then you're ready to submit, and you go through the process that Rebecca just showed us. So I'm not going to do that. Obviously we've done that. You set yourself up and all that. But just wanted to recap that is the way to, to do it. The other thing I will say before we finish up, in case there's any more questions, is that obviously we've got a similar page for EIFL's other agreement with Sage, and that we're working on like kind of a master spreadsheet that eventually you'll be able to have one spreadsheet to search across journals from Taylor & Francis and Sage and other publishers that we're working on similar agreements with. So there'll be a greater choice for similar subject categories. So that's the idea, that we'll have them all grouped together. So if a researcher approaches the library and says, I want to publish, this is my field, we can easily recommend them 5 journals, and they say, are those relevant? So do we have any other questions from the people on the call? Or any comments? Anything else? I can't see anything else because I missed it. I don't think so. Okay. Well, I think then we'll finish up. I'll just put my email address in the chat box there in case anyone... Oh, there we do have a question. According to some details you have given for publication of a journal, what shall I do so that my article may be published? So this is really a question about how to be published, right? And making sure that, your articles get accepted, which is, really, like I said, it's not different from the actual payment side of it. Do you want to say a couple of words about that really quickly? Or not?
Yeah, I can do, but I think, as you mentioned, this is separate from my own area of expertise.
Okay, yeah.
So this waiver process is completely separate from the peer review process. Mm-hmm. So I think, as long as you're happy that your article is to a high enough standard for submission, then it should be fine to go through that peer review process. We do have editing services available if you feel like there's language editing required on your article. But otherwise, yes.
You talked briefly actually about this single blind and double blind peer review. The way I understand it is that once your article is submitted, it will go to one peer reviewer, blind, so as in they don't see who the person is that submitted it. And if you have double blind, it goes to 2 different people. Is that right?
The difference is that in single blind, it means that the author does not see the peer reviewer's names, but the peer reviewer does see the author's name. So, for instance, in particularly niche fields, whereas double blind is where neither the reviewer nor the author see each other's names.
Yeah. We've talked internally about doing another webinar on this, how to get published. So that's something that we might be doing in the future, which will cover that side of it. But I think that's the main goal of this, was just to talk about, the payment side. Okay, so if there's no more questions, I think we'll finish up and keep it short and sweet. So I hope that's a good thing. But if any questions come up or you watch it again, I've put my email there, and if I can't answer the question, I'll get in touch with Rebecca or Nicolo, and keep your eyes open for any more videos like this, webinars that we're planning to do. Okay. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.